Can I see you a minute, please?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Wednesday stream. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what's going on. Nothing is working. Nothing is working. The music is gone. It's supposed to play. But yeah, sorry about that, folks. Howdy. Strong start. It peters off at the end. Once upon a time, a man went to church in Memphis. Sound. Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? All right. I hear you fine. All right. Cool. Eric, how's it going? Michael Haster. AT probably found another animal to rescue. No. Must be you? Maybe, I don't know. Heat, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub for 32 months. I appreciate it. I don't know what happened there, folks. Sorry. Nothing seems to work. I can't even change, scenes on this little controller I have here. It happens. I like your shirt. Thank you. I'm wondering why it's not working. Let's just quit this. Yeah. It's me. Alright, good. As long as everybody can hear me, we're good. Alright, let's see if it actually works this time. No? Nope. What about the BRB screen? Nope. Nothing's working. Alright. I guess we're gonna do everything manually today. That's nice. Does this even work? Okay. Yeah, my shirt says Chonk on it. It's a chonky cat. Alright, folks. In any case, unfortunately, it is what it is, so I guess I can't use the controller. Well, that's okay. We'll do it the old-fashioned way by clicking our way through the different scenes, through the different slides. Folks, before we get into it, again, just a couple of announcements. The usual. Thank you guys for your support. You guys are what makes this go. I appreciate all of your follows, biddies, subscriptions, everything. You guys are what makes this channel grow. If you want to support the channel, don't forget, if you're on the YouTube, like the stream, share, subscribe, do the awesome stuff. Join the Discord, folks. Okay? Join the Discord. Awesome people there. And movie night once a month. If you want to support the channel and want to wear some cool merch while doing it, hit the merch, exclamation mark merch button. Derry Bennett, how's it going? Welcome. TikTok ban passed the House. Yes, we'll get to it. Indeed it did. Well, it passed the House, but yeah. Will TikTok be... Yeah, that's actually the follow-up question. Will it be banned in the Senate? I don't know. My estimation is that it probably will not get banned. Yeah, I don't think they have enough votes in the Senate. Yeah, I don't think so either. Welcome, welcome. All right, sorry for the rocky start. We're gonna have to figure out what went wrong here. In any case, let's get it started because we got lots of ground to cover and time. Time is against us. People make money by posting on TikTok. I bet they're sweating. Yep. There we go. All right, so we have quite the ground to cover. So I think we should just start with this one. This one's fun. Let's do a funny story, yeah.
My father.
Well, John McCain's daughter is getting absolutely roasted online after the professional Nepo baby attempted to smear Oscar-winning director Jonathan Glazer following his acceptance speech on Sunday. Now, on Monday, I covered the entire speech, including some of the reaction. Jonathan Glazer is the director of the movie Zone of Interest, which is about a family during the World War II, a German family that lived next to Auschwitz, and essentially how this family lived their happy lives while the absolute worst was happening beside them. John McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, in case we're not clear on that,
My father
went online to attempt to slam his speech by taking him out of context. So first, I want to play a portion of the speech that she is referring to here, and then I'll get to
Biden wants his bando. That's true. That is true. That is very true. Hopefully, not enough votes in the Senate.
Meghan McCain's reaction and the reaction to her that is highly enjoyable. So first, here is a portion of that speech.
Our film shows where dehumanization leads at its worst. It shaped all of our past and present. Right now, we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people. Whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza, all are victims of this dehumanization.
All right, so let's be clear about the quote. Again, we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation, the right-wing Israeli government occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, just to be clear what that means, which has led to conflict for so many innocent people. It's very clear what he is saying here. He's refuting his Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by a government of Israel that is using those two things to support or to excuse the occupation and, of course, ongoing human rights abuses against Palestinians. Meghan McCain took that and said this. A lot of people in Hollywood showing their ass when a man gets on stage to, quote, refute his Jewishness, and half the room claps. The one good thing about Twitter still, even after Elon Musk took over, is these notes here, these community notes that go on to correct misinformation. Readers added context that they thought people might want to know about. Misleading. Quoted text is a small fragment of the original statement and misses important context, and goes on to give the full quote. Now, she doubled down after being corrected. It's not clear if she actually, who knows what's in her brain. She's incredibly stupid. So it's possible that she simply didn't watch it and saw others quoting it.
Yeah. Meghan McCain doesn't strike me as an incredibly intelligent person, so this is completely plausible.
And quoted their quotes, even though they were out of context. But some reactions here before we get to some of the funny stuff, because after she doubles down, it gets a little more wild.
One of the biggest sales ever.
Whoa.
30 beef sticks for just $30.
Whoa.
Try for $1 each.
No, stop it.
Yona Lieberman here.
They're cool with Meta, Amazon, and Google having all of our data. Wait till they find out where their iPhones are made. Yep.
tweeting out, a lot of people like you showing their asses by not finishing the sentence and implying a Jewish director of an award-winning movie about the Holocaust would somehow not feel Jewish. Great point here. Mehdi Hassan replying to Meg McCain saying, that's not what he did. This is a lie. It's a complete cut-off / distortion of this full quote. But now this lie has gone viral, and people like Meg McCain and, I forget her name again, Batya Ungar Sargon, who I covered on Monday with her reply, a similar sort of out-of-context reply, are refusing to delete their disinformation tweets despite hundreds of people informing / correcting them. It's shameful. Meghan McCain replies to that, saying, no peace, bitch. I'm not really sure what this is supposed to mean. You were corrected for your misinformation.
That strikes me as a little bit Islamophobic or maybe racist.
Your reply is to double down on your lies, trying to tell a Jewish man how he should or shouldn't feel about his Jewishness being used by a right-wing Israeli government. Bizarre. Mehdi Hassan replies to her with one of my favorite videos of all time. Here it is.
My father, 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 my father. I mean, my father, 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 my father.
Classic. She is a garbage person. I agree.
My father, 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 my father's my father, 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 my father's my father, 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 my father's my father, my father, my father, my father's my father, my father's my father, 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 my father. I am John McCain's daughter. My father.
Okay. That felt longer than it was only a minute long.
Yeah. Mehdi is fierce. Perfect response. I think so. Not going to ban the troll? No. Stop it. Our father saved healthcare for the moment, though. That's true. That's like the only thing that you could say about John McCain. Is for a brief moment he did the right thing that one time. You know?
That felt like it went on forever. Can you imagine? This is why I call her professional Nepo baby. This is why we know who she is. Look, let's be clear. You can't choose what family you're born into. You can't choose who your parents are, of course. But if you are John McCain's daughter, I don't know, maybe try to have some redeeming qualities of your own. But everything Meg McCain has ever done has been given to her.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of redeeming qualities, that you could probably say about John McCain, other than he wasn't an outright neo-Nazi, I guess. That's a pretty low bar, though. John McCain was conservative, but not toxically. No, he was the classic conservative who actually had who actually, subscribed to the idea of keeping the mask very, very, very well secured. That's John McCain. Yeah, he did vote to save Obamacare. That's like I said, that's the one thing, the one thing you could say about John McCain.
And it is very clear from her own quotes how often she references the very man that was able to get her all the positions she's ever had. The only reason anyone knows who Meghan McCain is. It's, the level of unearned confidence that Meghan McCain has is incredible, even for a Nepo baby like herself. Now, Meghan McCain replies to Cenk Uygur here saying, someone should give men an award for how consistently successful I am able to trigger unhinged progressive man boys, which is an interesting quote, considering that right now I have to use my other Twitter account to show these tweets because Meghan McCain blocked me years ago. And not from anything I said on Twitter. Didn't talk to her on Twitter. She must have seen one of my videos when she was on The View, and me, completely dismantling her arguments around whether it was healthcare or any other issue, and was clearly triggered by that, and went on to block me on Twitter, even though, again, I didn't interact with her on Twitter. So I could just see her, smashing the keyboard as she's writing these tweets. This reply may be my favorite. Matt Lieb here. To win an award, you'd actually have to have some sort of skill other than had a dad. So Matt Lieb was actually on our podcast a couple weeks ago. Hilarious individual, great comedian. John Schwartz here replying, saying, of all of America's failed children politicians, Meghan McCain is perhaps the most embarrassing. Really hard to argue with this. I can't think of someone else who is as embarrassing.
True. He publicly defended Huma Abedin against scurrilous charges made by other Republicans. Yeah, he's had like these handful of moments. I think he also pushed back against one of his own Islamophobic constituents when she came up and said something against Obama or something like that. He's got these moments, but yeah. Does he not have Donald Trump Jr. and an Eric t-shirt on?
As Meghan McCain when it comes to the children of politicians. Jordan here writing, a lot of people are...
He does. He has Beavis and Butthead right there. That's right.
Pretend to not understand what Glazer said because it serves a greater purpose. John McCain's daughter just actually couldn't comprehend what he said. Yeah, this gets to, we could just speculate her thinking here. Clearly, some people took the quote out of context to push a certain agenda. And, when it comes to right-wing commentators, that's what they were doing. Meghan McCain is so stupid that she may just not understand what he actually said and was only able to comprehend half of the sentence before her brain shut off. So it's quite possible that she didn't even realize.
Yeah, I would say that it's more probable that she just didn't comprehend what was being said. He was the last decent Republican, even though he was loyal to the party to a fault. I don't know. I don't even know if I would go that far.
That the quote wasn't saying what she thought he was saying. Marlo Stern here writing, a Christian ideologue cutting off the quote of a Jewish person's acceptance speech for his Holocaust film to twist its meaning into him being a self-hating Jew is really ugly stuff. Yeah. You want to talk about anti-Semitism? This is some real anti-Semitism on display here from Meghan McCain. Last response here. Branko writing, civil rights activists didn't invent racist quotes from officials or make up incidents of racist violence. When you're on the right side of history, the truth is enough. Why is it that supporters of this war continually exaggerate, misrepresent, and lie in the most brazen ways? This has been ongoing and has been one of the more frustrating aspects of trying to discuss what the right-wing Israeli government has been doing in Gaza, because before I'm even able to really dive into this topic and on the many videos I've done on it, I feel the need to sort of deprogram any brains that may have already been programmed to think a certain way by the absolute lies that have been spread by the right-wing Israeli government and much of the media. Now, the media has gotten better. They've begun to realize, hey, 30,000 civilians dead is not an easy thing to defend. and even we have to acknowledge this. CNN, I think over the weekend, did a great piece on the just the amount of children that have been killed or injured during the bombardment on Gaza, just since October 7th, let alone, you know, the ongoing occupation before that and all the violence before October 7th from the Israeli government. But the media's gotten a lot better at this. But even still, there's been, I felt this need to have to deprogram brains that have been programmed to think a certain way because of the level of propaganda that have been out there about their Israeli government for so long. Thankfully, a lot of that is changing. People are seeing that. We're seeing that in polling. People are realizing, especially younger people who are really engaged on human rights and this issue, recognize how serious this is. And, you know, I'm not, maybe one day, there was one day, you know, back when Meghan McCain was on TV every day on The View and spreading her propaganda, there was, you know, a moment in time when I was more worried about the Meghan McCain kind of propaganda being spread out there, but things are changing. Meghan McCain was drowned out by all these reactions. The reaction denouncing her claims here definitely outweighed the support that she was getting for this bullshit. So it's at least good to see that the tides are changing.
Yeah, I agree. I think public sentiment, just broadly, is definitely changing. I had breakfast today, so I'm omitting dinner. The Robert Her video is good too. I feel like people are starting to actually wake up. It's a bit heartening. Yes. You have to keep your digestive tract active throughout the day. All right, we gotta talk about this because it keeps happening. Not Kasparian. Yep, it keeps happening. She's still on this, even though, like, it's been proven time and time again that she's just wrong. She's making fun of the idea that, like, we shouldn't provide housing because, like, one of the, you know, fundamental, like, one of the things that we know that are, you know, driving crime are socioeconomic, you know, circumstances, right? That feeds crime. So, and here she is making fun of the idea that, oh, you know, maybe, you know, if we gave her a house and resources, she wouldn't do it anymore. In the context of this apparent couple, suburban couple, behind an 8 million nationwide shoplifting ring, apparently.
This is video of Michelle and Kenneth Mack arrested in December at their Bonzo mansion. Equipped with its own vineyard and chapel, they rented it out as a wedding venue and an Airbnb. But according to a search warrant, it also doubled as a stash house for a small fortune in makeup stolen from major retail stores across the country, like Sephora and Ulta.
This is a top priority for me, primarily because of the safety and security risk that it brings to our team.
Ulta CEO Dave Kimball spoke to CNBC's Courtney Reagan about the wave of theft hitting retail stores.
The network that she had built across the country was impacting multiple stores, and so by eliminating that, it's a step. But
yeah, here's another thing. Like, first of all, this is a complete straw man, right? Like, if you actually did provide resources and housing, the people that did commit some of those smash and grabs, would be less likely to do so. Like this entire crime shoplifting ring would be less likely to exist. Does that make sense? Like, this is also a straw man. Nobody has said that, like, crime is a figment of imagination. Okay? We know the videos exist. It's just an overblown problem that even corporations admit that they lied about. I agree with the first part to a degree. And again, the evidence that she puts to make fun of this idea is like a video where the CEO is the one being
But
interviewed here.
unfortunately, I know there's others that are out that are just like that.
53-year-old Michelle Mack and her husband have pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiracy, grand theft, and receipt of stolen property. Michelle is accused of working with as many as 12 women, providing them with a list of items to steal from stores across the country, like this Lens Crafters in Claremont and this Ulta Beauty in Mira Mesa. According to the search warrant, the goods were sometimes mailed to this Bonzel post office and would end up for sale at discounted prices on an Amazon storefront called Online Makeup Store. Stefan says with online stores and marketplaces becoming the new place for criminals to sell stolen goods, there have been some positive steps toward cracking down, like the recently passed Informed Consumers Act, which requires online marketplaces to get information from high-volume sellers to help ID stolen goods. But she says there are still loopholes that need to be closed in some person-to-person marketplaces like Facebook, as well as making sure Prop 47 is reformed so repeat offenders are properly punished. Omari Fleming, NBC7.
And Amazon released a statement regarding the issue saying, quote, "We invest more than $1 billion annually and employ thousands of people to fight fraud. We use
Yeah, so again, she continues on this narrative that there's like some kind of crime spree problem when this is A, completely overblown, B, making fun of the idea that, yeah, if you actually provide people with housing and resources, yeah, things like this wouldn't even exist in the first place, or would be less likely to exist. I used to resell stuff online, and so a bunch of my competition was from people who were stealing the stuff first, but I still don't feel bad for corporations. True. Police use clips like this to demand bigger budgets. Yep, and still do absolutely nothing with regards to preventing crime. It's sad. It really is sad how far Anna Kasparian has fallen. Being someone I used to have a lot of respect for. All right, and some positive news, folks. This just happened earlier today. Senator Bernard Sanders has introduced legislation that would make the 32-hour workweek standard with no loss in pay. I'm going to repeat that. Would make the 32-hour workweek the standard with no loss in pay. Let's take a look. Senator Bernie Sanders, chairman of the Senate Committee on Health and Education, Labor and Pension, will lead the committee in a hearing this Thursday, tomorrow, at 10 a.m. Eastern, titled Workers Should Benefit from New Technology and Increased Productivity, the Need for the 32-Hour Workweek with No Loss in Pay. Moving to a 32-hour workweek with no loss in pay is not a radical idea, said Chairman Sanders. Today, American workers are over 400% more productive than they were in the 1940s, and yet millions of Americans are working longer hours for lower wages than they were decades ago. That has got to change. The financial gains from major advancements in artificial intelligence, automation, and new technology must benefit the working class, not just corporate CEOs and wealthy stockholders on Wall Street. It is time to reduce the stress level in our country and allow Americans to enjoy a better quality of life. It is time for a 32-hour workweek with no loss in pay. I look forward to the discussion this week, which I believe is his statement. Yeah. Witnesses joining the hearing to provide testimony include UAW International President Shawn Fain, my president, the country's real president, Juliet Score of Sociology, Boston College, and lead researcher, 4-Day Week Global Trials, John Leland, Chief Strategy Officer, Kickstarter, and co-founder work for the National Campaign for the 4-Day Work Week, Dr. Liberty Vitter, professor of the practice of data science, Olin Business School, Washington University in St. Louis, and Roderick King, Senior Labor and Employment Counsel, HR Policy Association. Shawn Fain sounds like a rock star name, too. True. Hearing of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee to consider workers should benefit from the new technology and increased productivity, the need for the 32-hour week, tomorrow at 10 a.m. So that's nice. That's definitely something that I'm sure we'll keep an eye out. Will it actually will it actually pass? Will it actually get anywhere? I don't know. I don't know. Is it necessary? Yeah, I think so. Has it been incredibly successful in the pilot programs where it has been tested in other places? Yeah. Yeah, it has been wildly successful. Gotta start somewhere. True. I mean, like, just because the legislation, given the fact that, it's going to have a lot of opposition, not just from Republicans who hate the working class, but from corporate Democrats who serve, capital. Nonetheless, the conversation needs to be had, and nonetheless, he absolutely should push for this legislation, regardless of whether or not, whether or not it's going to pass. Another benefit is also you have on the record these Republicans and corporate Dems on the record voting against the working class. And they're going to have to explain to their constituents why they voted against their interest. Does that make sense? And if it does happen to pass, it'll be a huge win for the working class. They need to do a heck of a lot of these campaigns to get the majority of Americans on board. It can be done. Yeah, I think so. And like, I think that in my opinion, I think that a lot of Americans would be in favor of the 32-hour work week with no loss in pay. I think that would be incredibly popular. So in addition to his statement here, March 13th, Senator Bernie Sanders, chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pension, today announced that this Thursday he will introduce legislation to establish the standard 32-hour work week in America with no loss in pay, an important step towards ensuring that workers share in the massive increase in productivity driven by artificial intelligence, automation, and new technologies. Sanders is joined by the 32-Hour Workweek Act in the Senate by Senator LaFonza Butler, and in the House of Representatives, Representative Mark Takano, who introduced the companion legislation. Nice. Cool. Props to both of these Congress people. All right, so Derry Bennett said earlier that the House has passed the quote-unquote TikTok ban. The House passed a bill that could lead to a TikTok ban if Chinese owner refuses to sell. The House today passed a bill that would lead to a nationwide ban on the popular video app TikTok if its China-based owner does not sell its stake, as lawmakers acted on concerns that the company's current ownership structure is a national security threat. The bill passed by a vote of 352 to 65 and now goes to the Senate, where its prospects are unclear. TikTok, which has more than 150 million American users, is wholly owned by its subsidiary of Chinese technology firm ByteDance Ltd. The lawmakers contend that ByteDance is beholden to the Chinese government, which could demand access to the data of TikTok consumers in the U.S. anytime it wants. The worry stems from a set of Chinese national security laws that compel organizations to assist with intelligence gathering. We have given TikTok a clear choice, said Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers, representative from Washington. Separate from your parent company, ByteDance, which is beholden to the CCP, okay, Chinese Communist Party, and remain operational in the U.S., or side with the Chinese Communist Party and face the consequences. The choice is TikTok's. Well, that's not a choice at all, is it? That's not a choice. That's an ultimatum. House passage of the bill is only the first step. The Senate would also need to pass the measure for it to become law. And lawmakers in that chamber indicated it would go under a thorough review. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he'll consult with the relevant committee chairs to determine the bill's path. President Biden has said if Congress passes the measure, he will sign it. I believe Michael Hassler pointed that out earlier as well. The House vote is the latest example of the increased tensions between China and the U.S. By targeting TikTok, lawmakers are tackling what they see as a grave threat to national security, but also singling out a platform popular with millions of people, many of whom skew younger, just months before an election. Yeah, nothing suspicious about that, right? The timing just seems, a little too on the nose, huh? A TikTok spokesperson, Alex Harrick, said in a statement that after the vote, the bill was jammed through as part of a secret process. We are hopeful that the Senate will consider the facts, listen to their constituents, and realize the impact on the economy, 7 million small businesses, and 170 million Americans who use our service. In anticipation of the vote, a Chinese foreign ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin accused Washington of resorting to political tools when U.S. businesses fail to compete. He said the effort would disrupt normal business operations and undermine investor confidence and will eventually backfire on the U.S. itself. Overall, 197 Republican lawmakers voted for the measure and 15 against. On the Democratic side, 155 voted for the bill and 50 against. Shouldn't they be courting voters right now, not driving them away? Yeah, well, you know. Some Republican opponents of the bill said the U.S. should warn consumers if there are data privacy and propaganda concerns, but the final choice should be left with consumers. The answer to authoritarianism is not more authoritarianism, said Tom McClintock of California, a Republican of California. The answer to Chinese Communist Party style propaganda is not Chinese Communist Party style oppression. Let us slow down before we blunder down this very steep and slippery slope. Democrats also warned the impact a ban would have on the users in the U.S., including entrepreneurs and business owners. One of the no votes came from Representative Jim Himes, the ranking Democratic member of the House Intelligence Committee. Quote, one of the key differences between us and those adversaries is the fact that they shut down newspapers, broadcast stations, and social media platforms. We do not. We trust our citizens to be worthy of their democracy. We do not trust our government to decide what information they may or may not see. The day before the House vote, top national security officials in the Biden administration held a closed-door briefing with lawmakers to discuss TikTok and the national security implications. Lawmakers are balancing those security concerns against the desire not to limit free speech online. What we've tried to do here is be very thoughtful and deliberate about the need to force a divestiture of TikTok without granting any authority to the executive branch to regulate content or go after any American company, said Representative Mike Gallagher, the bill's author, as he emerged from the briefing. Do not pass. Yeah, I don't know if I'm actually. I don't know if I'm on board with this. You know, because like it's one thing to acknowledge and maybe try to deal with like the very real issues that come with social media companies, but I don't think this is it. I don't think this is it. TikTok has long denied that it could be used as a tool for the Chinese government. The company has said it's never shared U.S. user data with Chinese authorities and won't do so if it is asked. To date, the U.S. government has also not provided evidence to show that TikTok shared such information with Chinese authorities. Republican leaders moved quickly to bring up the bill as after its introduction last week by Gallagher and Representative Raja Chrysanthemurthy of D3. A House committee approved the legislation unanimously on a 50-0 vote, even after their offices were inundated with calls from TikTok users demanding that they drop the effort. Oh, Illinois. Of course. I knew that. It's just 3 eyes. I mean, it's ILL. Got it. It gives sweeping authority to ban any platform without congressional approval. Firefly, how's everyone enjoying the march into fascism, guys? Yeah. Things are going great. Everything's fine. Yeah, so how is this not a violation of the First Amendment? Some offices even shut off their phones because of the onslaught. Supporters of the bill said that the effort backfired. It provided members a preview of how the platform could be weaponized to inject this information into our system. Lawmakers in both parties are anxious to confront China on a range of issues. the House formed a special committee to focus on China-related issues, and Schumer directed the committee chairs to begin working with Republicans on a bipartisan China competition bill. Schumer is likely to feel some pressure within his own party to move on the TikTok legislation. Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner announced that after the House vote, he will work to get the bill passed through the Senate and signed into law. In a joint statement with Senator Marco Rubio, of Florida, the top Republican on the intelligence panel, Warner said that we are united in our concern about the national security threat posed by TikTok, a platform with enormous power to influence and divide Americans whose parent company, ByteDance, remains legally required to do the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party. Democratic Senator Maria Cantel, who chairs another panel with jurisdiction on the issue, said she would try to find a path forward that is constitutional and protects civil liberties. Roughly 30 TikTok influencers and others who traveled with them spoke out against the bill on Capitol Hill on Wednesday. They chanted phrases like "Keep TikTok ahead of the vote." They also held signs that read, "TikTok changed my life for the better," and "TikTok helped me grow my business." Dan Salinger, a Sacramento, California-based TikTok creator in attendance, said he started creating content on the app during the COVID pandemic purely out of boredom. But since then, his account, which features videos about his life and his father, who suffers from dementia, has grown in popularity. Today, he has 2 million followers on the app. "I'm actually appalled for many reasons," Salinger said. "The speed which they are pushing this bill does not give enough time for Americans to voice their concerns and opinions. I'm just a bill. Meanwhile, Twitter is dividing us every day." That's an excellent point. Are we going to scrutinize Twitter? No. Nope. Former President Trump has spoken out against the House effort, but his Vice President Mike Pence is urging Schumer to bring the House bill to a vote. That's the point, to rush it. Yep. So nobody has enough time, to react to what can only be described as dystopic legislation. This is bad precedent. It is. Yes, there can be no doubt that the app is Chinese spyware and that is a sale to a non-foreign adversary. Companies in the best interest of the American people, said Pence. Yeah. Nothing could possibly go wrong, right? There's no way that this could possibly be twisted and misused. And in no way is this also hiding some other nefarious capabilities. Next, Twitch, Discord, YouTube, yep. It's wild how they can come together and vote almost unanimously to write, read, and pass this in a few days, but they can't do this for anything else. Yep. Yep, when it comes to making sure that they do fly-by-night, authoritarian, bills, man, the bipartisanship comes into play real fast. But you ask for things like social programs that would objectively benefit, Americans, like a universal health care program or anything like that. That can't be done. That's impossible. That's right. It's an unironic slippery slope. Because if they are able to shoehorn this type of legislation in, and leave the fix in, so that later down the road they can ban, YouTube or whatever. Man, I was in the Rational National Discord server, and one of the folks said, 1984 was supposed to be a warning, not a playbook. Meanwhile, Flint hasn't had clean water in 10 years. Yep. Very true. Very true. The parliamentarian was always a farce also. Yep. Anyone who's not in the Rational National server should join. It's another good one. True. But they don't do movie nights like us, so what are we going to watch this month? That's a good question. I have no idea. But I should get that poll ready. I should get that poll ready. I suggested Dune 1. Zombies. I mean, personally, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it. Mouselander, welcome. I'm not opposed to that idea. Is it like the Dune the Dune movie, the Dune remake that just came out not that long ago? Or are we talking about like the actual like 1980s Dune? Because that was like a trip. I don't know if you guys have seen the original Dune. Whew, that's that is a trip. I've been lurking. I appreciate that. The remake, okay. Gotcha. But the original is good. Was the original the one where, oh god, the bad guy is like, the bad guy is Sting from the Police? Is the original Dune where the bad guy is Sting from the Police? Yeah, it is? Okay. Is Mighty Mouse Mouselander on Twitch? Yes. All I see is an Atreides I want to kill. I've read several Dune books. But there's a lot. There's a freaking lot. Let's do a meme story before we go into the next one. Like Bowie and Labyrinth, like Pan's Labyrinth? No, right? I'm thinking of something else.
Well, it seems like we've got even more bad news for Lauren Boebert, aka Bobo. But just to catch you all up to speed, if you haven't been following this story as closely as I have, she switched districts in an effort to save her failing political career because in Colorado's 3rd congressional district, it's more purple, and polls showed that she'd probably lose to her Democratic opponent, Adam Frisch. So after Republican Ken Buck in the neighboring 4th district announced that he'd be retiring, she then chose to abandon her constituents in the 3rd district and run in the 4th, since that one is more solidly Republican, and thus she would never have to worry about losing to a Democrat ever again. The only problem with this strategy is she gave up her incumbency advantage and now has to compete in an open Republican Party primary, and that hasn't been going very well for her, to say the least. After the first debate, she was ruthlessly attacked by her GOP opponents and came in 5th place in a straw poll, and at the second debate, she was ignored entirely by her opponents, which is a pretty bad sign because it signals that they no longer view her as a threat, or perhaps their internal polling shows that they're beating her and thus don't have to worry about her. But that hasn't stopped attacks from Republican Party voters in the 4th district, particularly evangelicals, who don't want to support her because they think that she's a lowlife after she was caught vaping and jerking off her boyfriend in a theater while they watched Beetlejuice. And she's well aware of the fact that her little Beetlejuice incident hurt her, which is why she's now trying to do historical revisionism about her sexual degeneracy, all in an effort to win back the evangelicals that she lost. For example, in an unnecessarily long and gratuitous puff piece written about her in the Washington Post, she was quoted saying, "People were freaking out about me dancing in the seat at Beetlejuice. Well, they should see me in church." But Lauren, people weren't freaking out because you were dancing. They were freaking out because you jerked off your date in public. And now it seems like
oh man, this is whew.
you're kind of saying that you jerk people off in church as well, which I'm sure will assuage the fears of evangelicals that you initially courted but lost because they now view you as a hypocrite. Rightfully so, might I add. So, I mean, suffice to say, things haven't gone too well for Bobo lately. That is, until the cavalry arrived in the form of an endorsement by none other than Donald J. Trump, which she gleefully shared on Twitter. So the question is, did the Trump endorsement help? And the answer, seemingly, at least based on the small amount of anecdotal evidence that we have, is no, it did not help.
My journey with my teeth started at a young age
Trump's
when I had
endorsement
teeth that would
seemingly
break.
did not help her at all. Newsweek explains, another straw poll was conducted on March 3rd, only a day after Boebert was endorsed in her race by Trump at a debate in Holyoke, Colorado. Once again, she struggled against the competition, placing 3rd behind former state senator and Logan County Commissioner Jerry Sonnenberg and veteran state lawmaker Ted Harvey. The poll sample size was around 180 debate attendees, which could be considered too low to be representative of broader trends. And that's a really important point. To be fair, this isn't a scientific poll. And also, she only was endorsed one day before this debate. So there could be a lot of people there that didn't know she was endorsed by Trump. So maybe we don't necessarily know the true effect that Trump's endorsement had, although I doubt that they didn't know because I'm assuming she told everyone that she was endorsed by Donald Trump. But this is a relatively small sample size, and the people there might not necessarily be representative of the entire district. So it's important to keep that in mind. But the people, showing up to these debates, at least, they don't seem moved at all by Trump's endorsement, which isn't too surprising considering the fact that this is Ken Buck's old district, who is viewed as a more traditional Republican as opposed to a MAGA extremist freak like Bobo. So it is possible that there might not be an appetite for that type of Republican politics in this district. Having said that, though, is it a foregone conclusion that she's going to lose, at least based on the anecdotal evidence that we've seen thus far and the straw polls that we have? Unfortunately, no. Because we actually do have at least one scientific poll. Now, usually you need multiple polls, and, the average of that kind of gives us an indication as to where voters are going. But we have one from Kaplan Strategies that was conducted on February 25th. And at least according to this poll, I am sad to report that Lauren Bobo is absolutely obliterating her Republican opponents. Newsweek continues, the polling aggregator site 538 features only one poll for the 4th District GOP race, with Boebert scoring a 25-point lead over her nearest competitor, State Representative Mike Lynch. The polling company behind the results, Kaplan Strategies, suggested that Boebert's advantage could fade as voters coalesce around one rival candidate further along in the race. The Colorado congressional primary will take place on June 25th. Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. But if she ends up winning the primary, the race is effectively over at that point because this is a deep red district, which means she's all but guaranteed to go back to Congress and remain in that seat for the foreseeable future. Because going forward, if she wins this primary, there's not going to be any open GOP primaries in the future. So she wins that seat and doesn't have to worry about Democratic challengers in general elections. Mission accomplished. Now, we can't draw too many conclusions about that one poll because a lot can change between now and Colorado's June 25th primary. And as Kaplan Strategies suggested to Newsweek, yeah, there's still a lot of people in the race. And if they all kind of drop out and coalesce around one person, that could be enough to potentially defeat her. But the question is, why is there such a disparity between what's happening on the ground with these straw polls and the scientific poll, which kind of takes a broader look at the entire district? And it's hard to say for sure, but it could be that people showing up for her opponents are just more engaged politically, but that's not always indicative of a broader voting base, right? So her voters might not necessarily be as politically active in that they show up to these debates to support her, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be reliable votes for her when it comes to the primary. But the people that she's running against have really deep ties to the community, and she doesn't. She's called a carpetbagger and attacked by constituents for not being in that district. So it's certainly possible that her opponents overperform the polls if they mobilize enough voters, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's impossible to predict what's going to happen at this point. All I know is the thought of not having to hear about Bobo ever again, think about it for a moment. It's a wonderful thought, isn't it? Now, on top of that, her losing after switching districts so she has an easier time would be the most hilarious outcome ever produced by our electoral system. And if that happened, I would lose my shit. I'd be so happy. So I am crossing my fingers and my toes, but I'm not going to get my hopes up because we don't know what's going to happen. Either way, I will keep you all posted on this race.
I hope she does lose. Yeah, they've been wrong before, the polls, but yeah, there's not a lot of data to go on, essentially. Not a lot of data to go on. Massachusetts governor to pardon misdemeanor charges linked to marijuana possession. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, Democrat, announced today that she intends to pardon misdemeanor marijuana possession charges, a move that could impact hundreds of thousands of Bay State residents. Nobody should face barriers to getting a job, housing, or education because of an old misdemeanor marijuana conviction that they would not be charged for today. Healey said in a statement, "We're taking this nation-leading action as part of our community as part of our commitment to using the clemency process to advance fairness and equity in our criminal justice system. Healy lauded the action as follow-up to President Biden's federal pardon of marijuana possession charges in 2022 and expansion of the move in December, which impacted thousands of people. Biden had called on states to follow his lead. Just as no one should be in federal prison solely due to use or possession of marijuana, no one should be in a local jail or state prison for that reason either, he said last year. Excellent news indeed. Based. Now I want some turkey. The pardons would apply to simple marijuana possession charges and not those including distribution, trafficking, or driving under the influence, the governor's office said. Most people impacted by the pardons would not have to take action. Haley's proclamation must first be approved by the governor's council. The pardons would take effect immediately upon the council's approval, though they would take time to update in state records. State Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell praised the action as critical to rectify racial injustice in policing. Convictions of simple marijuana possession, which someone could not be charged with today, have led to disproportionate incarceration of black and brown people and made it nearly impossible for them to obtain a job, housing, education, opportunities, and more. Campbell said in a statement, as the AG's office also works to address injustice and close the racial wealth gap, this proposed pardon meaningfully moves the Commonwealth in the right direction. Marijuana was legalized in Massachusetts in 2016, and a booming industry has formed in the state, despite the drug remaining illegal federally. Multiple other states have made mass pardons for marijuana possession offenses in recent years, including Missouri, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Nice! Congratulations to Massachusetts. That is how it's done. All right, folks. We've got one more story. Oh, wait, no, we don't. Hold on. I forgot about this one. Should have been part of legalization. Yeah, of course. Like, the ideal scenario would be that we would have a federal, a federal legal, decriminalization or legalization of marijuana. Yeah. I almost forgot about this. I almost skipped over this. Hold on, folks. Oh, the pardons. Yes. That's right. The pardons and record expunsions. Is that what it's called? Should be in a package. So apparently, following the controversy that Trump would be open to cutting, Social Security and Medicare, attempting to do damage control. Ben Shapiro says no. Apparently, you should be working until you die. Or as I put it, man who has hate-operated media machine who does a podcast for a living tells you that you need to work until you die. Take it away, Ben. Take it away.
And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy.
Stop. Oh man, this is gonna go over really well. I think Republicans should run on this. Right? In fact, Republicans should run ads with the opening statement like this.
And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy.
Yeah, there you go. 2024, vote for Republicans.
Joe Biden, if that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. Hey, Joe Biden is 81 years old. The retirement age in the United States at which you start to receive Social Security and you are eligible for Medicare is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Joe Biden is incredibly old. That does not mean that we shouldn't have a retirement age. Follow-up question. Would you say the same thing about Trump?
Years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old.
Go fuck yourself, Ben. How about that? Go fuck yourself. The fact that, like, first of all, like, the average lifespan in America is, like, about 77 years old. About, you know, the average is about 76, 77. And the fact that, like, he's saying that nobody should be retiring at the age of 65. What an absolute fucking ghoul. Ben Shapiro fucking disgusts me.
Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job and they stop working, things go to hell.
Or maybe, you know, being a cog in a capitalist machine doesn't fulfill you with purpose. Because, like, you can be doing things without being in a job, right? Ben is really, like, work is the only way to find purpose in life. Exactly. According to Ben, yes. Ben is really hitting that Kubrick stare harder these days.
On a handbasket real quick. But put all of that aside. Just on a fiscal level and on a logical level.
It doesn't even make sense. You're wrong on that account too, Ben. Not only is it, like, morally reprehensible, I know he's being a POS show with all this, but still. Yeah, like, not only is this morally, like, reprehensible, that you're basically advocating for, like, people to work until they die, but it's also just, like, you're just wrong, Ben. It's not logical. It's not economical either.
When Franklin Delano Roosevelt established 65 as the retirement age, the average life expectancy in the United States was 63 years old. Today, the average life expectancy in the United States is close to 80. It's totally insane that you believe that you should be able to work from the time that you are essentially 20 to the time that you are 65, which is a 45-year period, pay in, and then you will receive Social Security benefits sufficient to support you and your family, you and your wife or whatever, for like another 20 years. That's crazy talk. That is not fiscally sustainable.
Yes, it is, Ben. You just said it. You pay into it your entire working life. Seeing him get roasted and pushed back in his comments by even other right-wingers is hilarious. Oh, but this is through Media Matters.
The notion that if you have to raise the retirement age to 67 or 68, that everyone is going to fall apart. My parents are that age. My parents are not retired. And they shouldn't retire. It would be very bad for them.
What do they do, Ben? You have to go to his Twitter or our YouTube channel. God, it won't support you unless you made a huge salary. True.
Retire. By the way, it's disrespectful to people who are 67, 68, 69 years old to suggest that they are in the same shape as people who are 65 were in 1940. It's not true at all. Have you met a 65-year-old lately? 65-year-olds are not old in the United States.
Okay, it doesn't matter, Ben. There's even one TPUSA girl in there too. Oh, man.
They're not. 68-year-olds are not old in the United States. Again, Joe Biden thinks he's not old, and that dude is running for president again, and that dude actually is old, and he's 81. I fail to see how a country in which our entire leadership class is 80 plus is telling you that we should have a retirement age of 65. It makes no sense at all.
What a moron. None of these arguments land at all. Nope.
The problem with that is that, of course, they're all going to go bankrupt. So politicians obviously have an incentive to keep kicking the can down the road and pretending that we have unlimited borrowing power and limited money to pay for a ballooning public debt. That, of course, is their incentive structure. But I'm not running for office, so I can tell you the truth, which is that if we don't raise the retirement age or privatize Social Security over time or make any changes to Social Security, we will...
No. Here's another suggestion, Ben. Probably a better one. Maybe we shouldn't have... maybe we shouldn't have caps on Social Security taxes where someone who's incredibly wealthy is paying the same as like middle class people. Maybe we should lift the caps and raise taxes on the incredibly wealthy. We have a sovereign currency, man. His argument is that geriatric candidates prove his point. Nobody wants this. Exactly.
Will go insolvent. Social Security is not, in fact, a lockbox. I saw a lot of tweets yesterday from people saying, I paid into Social Security. I'm just taking out what I got in. No, you're not. You absolutely are not. The government stole your money and paid it to somebody else. And now they're stealing somebody else's money and paying it to you. And I promise you that whatever...
That's literally not how that works. These motherfuckers will quantitative visa us until the earth kills us. Yep.
You paid in is certainly not what you're getting out. You're either getting out way less. In my case, you're getting way less in Social Security, if ever you receive it, than you paid in. And in many cases, you're receiving far more. So my grandmother, for example, receiving Social Security, got way more than she paid in. Because Social Security is not a defined contributions plan. It's a defined benefits plan. Right? Social Security tells you how much you receive, but it has nothing to do with how much you put in. Social Security is a pyramid scheme. It is a Ponzi scheme.
That's not how that works.
We're taking out trillions of dollars in debt to fund people retiring from work who are not somehow unable to work. That was the point that I'm making, is that many of the people that we are paying not to work right now, who are 65 years old, yes, they paid into the system, but that is because the system should not have taken their money in the first place. You should not have your money taken away from you by the federal government and then spent somewhere else. And then later, somebody else has to fill you in. You should be able to keep your own money. That's how you plan for retirement.
If we tax all the income earned, you could pay for Social Security and Medicare.
The problem with that is that, of course, they're all going to go bankrupt. So I paid for my parents, and now it's my children's friends' turn to pay. It's like, that's not the way that society is supposed to work. I don't want my children to pay for me. My goal is to be able to invest enough so that I can cover my children, not the other way around. And by the way, it is worth noting at this point that it will not be our children paying for us. It will be debt paying for us or immigrants paying for us as we retire.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so then we get to the second argument, and this is the one that apparently set people off really a lot. Okay, the second argument that I make is that I think that retirement generally, for a lot of people, is stupid. Okay, here's what I mean by that. So I don't mean that you retiring from a job that's backbreaking labor is stupid. That's your personal decision. The argument that I'm making is sort of twofold. One, that the government has no actual obligation to fund your retirement if it allows you to keep your money in the first place. If it stole your money, then I understand. People who had their money stolen by the government, they want their money back. I get it, totally. Then there's the question of what retirement actually constitutes. There seems to be this idea about that retirement is natural, that you hit 65 and you go like sit on a beach somewhere for the next 20 years of your life.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? You work your entire adult life. He really is a waste of oxygen. So $34K a month UBI, then starting for a single and up there from Ben. How's that sound? And said, nah, that's socialism.
And whether that is publicly funded or privately funded, the point that I was making yesterday is that I do not think that as a general rule, it is good for people to consider themselves retired from the world. I don't think that it's good. Retirement, particularly in the post-familial, post-church age, harms mental health. It robs people of purpose. Again, I'm not saying that you can't retire if you want to. If you have the money to do so, go for it if you want to. And I'm also not saying you should be forced not to retire if you can afford to retire. I'm making the case that actually early retirement, by the data, tends to harm your health. That working longer tends to be good for you.
What? This is absurd. Is he ever gonna like cite? Is he gonna like cite that data? Immense citation needed, Ben. Immense citation needed. Huge citation needed. Huge citation needed. Both my parents died at 64. F you, Ben. Rightfully so.
According
screw this guy. Like, can you imagine like Ben Shapiro telling you that like, oh, you know, just like, oh, you shouldn't retire at 65, like knowing that both of your parents died at 64. What an asshole this guy is. Like, Ben of all people is actually worried about the mental health of anyone. He's not. Like, never mind the fact that like he just made it the F up. Yeah. Also, if we didn't allow inflation to run rampant, commodify basic necessities, and allow uninvolved investors to milk wealth from healthy companies, we wouldn't be in this situation we're in.
The BBC, quote, research from the Institute of Economic Affairs suggests that while retirement may initially benefit health by reducing stress and creating time for other activities, adverse effects increase the longer retirement goes on. In fact, this study found that retirement increases the chances of suffering from clinical depression by around 40%, of having at least one diagnosed physical illness by about 60%.
Wait, but is this causation or is this just like correlation? Like, are there any other factors that may contribute to said depression than just like retirement? Does that make sense?
And of course, that's not particularly surprising because for a lot of people, they find purpose in the thing that they've been doing for the past 40 years. It used to be, by the way, that you could fill that gap with a few things. Right? You retired from your job or you were forced into retirement by your company, and you'd fill that gap in a few ways. One would be friendships. There's only one problem. In the United States, friendship has been declining for decades.
So we shouldn't retire? Question mark. He is talking about this as though people are being forced to retire at stop working at 65. Yep. He wants your grandma to take cat food and collect berries until she dies of lack of health care. Yep. And then he'll blame her for not having enough money. Bottles. Oh, not birdies, bottles. Next, he'll start telling us toddlers have the right to work. Oh, he probably does agree with child labor.
As Robert Putnam wrote in Bowling Alone, nobody even has social clubs anymore. Church, which is another place that people tended to put their time in retirement, has been declining for decades. So people don't know what to do with themselves. Family has been declining for decades. In fact, actually, as an ironic byproduct of Social Security, family has been declining because it used to be before Social Security. What happened to grandma when it was time for grandma to retire or grandpa? They lived with you. Grandma and grandpa lived in the house with you, and you helped your parents out. That's what it was about.
What? Oh my God. This is absurd. This is actually insane. What he wants is unproductive people to die, period, end of statement.
And that created intergenerational contact.
Ah, yes. We want to go back to the good old days where we had such a such a terrible socioeconomic circumstances where we forced grandma and grandpa back, to live with their children because we had such a great system that required them to do so, because otherwise, they would die and they wouldn't have the resources.
And and that was fulfilling for grandma and grandpa, and it was fulfilling for kids and grandkids, because then you got the wisdom of grandma and grandpa. That's been completely destroyed by Social Security. Now the American vision is you hit 65 or you hit 70, whatever it is, you retire, and then we shuffle you off to the villages or some old age home or something. And listen, if you want to be there, that's fine. I mean, it's a free country. But the idea that this is like the ideal form of what 80-year-old life looks like is you don't see your kids, you don't see your grandkids, and you live in a home.
But that's not always the case, Ben. You're making this like huge like straw man that like this is the this is the future liberals want, huh? What?
By yourself? That the data do not support the idea that this is wonderful for people. And it is worth noting that when this sort of idea was proposed, elderly people actually revolted against it. They didn't like it.
Actually, parents living with children is not really a bad idea as long as the household is not toxic. Some people prefer to be around family. That's fine. That's fine if it's like a choice. The thing that Ben is describing is a dystopic economic circumstance where it was basically like that was it. That was the only choice you had as an elderly person because you didn't have Social Security to have financial independence. I like this comment. Retirement is stupid, says the guy who sits on a chair yapping terrible opinions all day. True.
Fascinating. One of the
my grandmother lived in her home until she was 90. Nice.
Fascinating things that some of the people who are sort of on the right on this typically would be considered right wing of the political spectrum, who were very upset with me yesterday. They were saying, well, you don't respect the blue collar worker because you're saying that people, quote unquote, don't deserve to retire.
Yeah, correct. That's exactly what. Yes, Ben. I have no family. What do I do at 65? Well, according to Ben Shapiro, yeah, just I guess it sucks.
My point is that I don't think that retirement is a good personal decision. I think there's a deserve about it. You deserve whatever you can pay for. As far as what you deserve from the public, from the guy who's still working, that's a completely different story. But it is interesting to me that many of the same people who will, for example, object to automated technologies because they say that it kills jobs, and people need jobs. The universal basic income won't do it. You can't just cut somebody a welfare check and find a sense of fulfillment in that. Suddenly believe that the logic reverses itself when you hit 65. When you hit 65, they can cut you a welfare check in the form of Social Security, and that somehow this is more fulfilling than when you were 30 and they were cutting you a welfare check in lieu of a job. You can't have it both ways. You can't have jobs are good and also jobs are bad. Like you got to pick one. In my general,
that's not true? Question mark. Oh my God.
Perception is that human beings like to work in one.
I choose a job I can do until my faculties degrade. I just hope it's not for a long while. I think Ben is the only one confused here. Now we all are.
Form or another. And that human beings are really not made to, quote unquote, retire in the way that we think of it. Like sitting on a pool deck somewhere for 20 years. That's not what human beings are created for. From a biblical perspective, you might say, thou shalt work 6 days a week, and on the seventh thou shalt rest. You might say that. As long as you still have your health, and as long as you still have your mental aptitude, it seems to me like most people want to work and should. And that doesn't mean the government forces them to. We're not talking about sending you to the salt mines when you're 70 years old. But I'm just bewildered by this perception that that's somehow an elitist sentiment, when the point that I'm making is that I believe it is human nature.
It is an elitist sentiment, Ben. Coming from you. Ben is channeling Atlas Shrugged pretty hard right now. Yep. There's some push by whoever's backing Ben financially to keep people working longer because labor is getting harder and harder for businesses to find. Yep. I mean, like, look at all the push for for child labor. All these Republican states making it easier for child labor. We are flock animals, you ghoul. Society means together. Exactly. Ben doesn't care.
For people to want to feel productive, useful, and purposeful. And if you can't find...
But you don't need a job necessarily to do that. Like, I find more fulfillment and joy doing things like this podcast, okay? Doing things like this podcast, doing things like going out and doing gardening, that doesn't pay me necessarily. Like, I don't get paid to go out and build that, garden bed. And that is way more fulfilling than my job that pays the bills, right? Or that helps pays the bills. I get more fulfillment in and enjoyment out of life playing Magic the Gathering. I get more fulfillment playing video games, okay, than I do at my job. I get more fulfillment playing with my cats. I get more fulfillment hanging out with my partner, okay? I get more fulfillment just going out on hikes than at my job. And there's the issue that the longer older people remain in positions, there are fewer opening for younger grads in an already shrinking labor environment as we advance and capitalists move towards AI and automation. Yep. That D&D movie that came out is pretty good. I haven't seen it, but should probably check it out. In any case, like now, I mean, like it can't be any more apparent that now, like basically, like Republicans, after hiding the ball for forever and a half, they're actually coming out and just saying, you know what? Social Security shouldn't even exist. Okay, you work till you die, and you're gonna like it. That's it. Ben Shapiro, everybody. I can't believe I almost forgot about that story because I had it tied in with the I had it tied in with the other story with the bill that's that Bernie Sanders is going to put out for the 32-hour work week, but sorry about that. All right, folks, final story, because it is 7 o'clock. We're definitely at a critical breaking point historically in so many different aspects of the way society and economic structure has been designed to be. That's true. That's true, and it's not, it ain't like a freaking movie where things just like, happen like that. It's it takes a while. Have you how long did it take for like the Roman Empire to like fall? It took a very long time. At some point, you're right, Firefly, something has to give. You're right. That was a very different time under different circumstances. That's true. It might be faster. The world is so different now. That's true. That's very true. It might be faster. Yeah, you think so? Well, buckle up, folks. Strap in, and I hope you guys have your safety buckles on, because this ride's just gotten started. Final story of the day. Biden and Trump clinch nominations heading to another general election rematch. Yep, that's basically, that's it. The primary is over, effectively. Like, essentially, for all intents and purposes. Not that this is, like, news, but it's official. Donald Trump has clinched the Republican nomination for president. CNN projects setting up a rematch with Joe Biden, the incumbent president who secured the Democratic nomination earlier Tuesday night. Biden and Trump will win their party's presidential primaries in Georgia, Mississippi, and Washington, while Trump will also win the Republican caucus in Hawaii. CNN projects voting wrapped up in the primary for Democrats abroad, the official arm of the Democratic Party for Americans living overseas. Biden is a projected winner of the Democratic primary in the U.S. territory of the Northern Mariana Islands held earlier today. In a post to social media platform X, Biden celebrated his status as party's presumptive nominee, calling it a time of choosing in a new campaign video. Quote, "Today's a day call to action," said Biden in a voiceover. "With your voice, with your power, with your vote. Come November, we'll vote in record numbers and can do it, and we have the power to do it. Are you ready? Are you ready to defend democracy? Are you ready to protect our freedom? Are you ready to win this election?" I don't know, old man. You tell us. Trump's campaign posted a video on X of the former president later Tuesday, shortly after he clinched the nomination. "Today was a great day of victory. Last week was something very special. Super Tuesday. But now we have to get back to work. Okay? Because we have the worst president in the history of the country, as opposed to the best president prior. Your favorite president, me. His name is Joe Biden and sometimes referred to as Crooked Joe. Crooked Joe Biden, he must be defeated." The shorter slate of elections followed last week, Super Tuesday, when Biden and Trump dominated across the map, putting both on the cusp of winning. A majority of the delegates needed to be crowned their party's presumptive nominees. Their rematch, long anticipated, question mark? That's literally, this is a rematch that nobody asked for. But okay, sure, CNN. But hardly clamored for is broadly, wait, unless I read that wrong, like anticipated, meaning like everyone expected this. Yeah, I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna assume that they meant that like long anticipated as in everybody expected this to happen. Though Trump will run under, this time under the specter of broadly, but hardly clamored for, is broadly expected to mirror the 2020 campaign, though Trump will run this time under the specter of 91 felony charges related to allegations that he plotted to overturn the election, playing a leading role in the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. He legally took classified documents and covered up hush money payments to an adult film star ahead of the 2016 election. Though he now has a record of accomplishments and missteps for voters to weigh, Biden is so far running a similar campaign to 2020, appealing to concerns over Trump's authoritarian behavior and middling economy. Unlike Trump, the president has never faced a serious, well-funded primary challenge, with Minnesota Representative Dean Phillips, his lone rival in the elected office, dropped out and endorsed Biden last week. Marianne Williamson, who unsuspended her campaign late last month, remains in the race, as does venture capitalist Jason Palmer, who defeated Biden in the American Samoa Caucus last week. Who is this? Biden's main opposition has not come from any candidate, but from more general inter-party anxiety over his age and from progressive outrage over the administration's support for Israel during its month-long genocide against Hamas, against Gazans. The president has also come under scrutiny following the release of Special Counsel Robert Hur's report, which concluded that Biden's mishandled and improperly disclosed classified information after leaving the vice presidency, but no charges were filed with Hur, who testified yesterday, saying that he did not believe there was enough evidence to charge Biden with a crime. On the GOP side, Trump has long seen as a prohibitive favorite despite competition from a collection of GOP challengers, including governors, senators, right-wing provocateurs, and his own former vice president, Mike Pence. A venture capitalist as a president, what could go wrong? Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Fox guarding the like, you know, it's indicative that like instead of just buying government like, you know, like usually the wealthy capitalist class does, They're now just running for government. They're now just running, like Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump, this venture capitalist dude, this James Palmer or Jason Palmer, whatever his name is. Yeah, cool. The last to succumb was former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who left the Republican race last week after a string of Super Tuesday losses but did not endorse Trump on the way out. Haley said the former president needed to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who didn't support it. Did not support him. Similar to Biden, Trump will need to win over skeptical portions of his own base to match past levels of support. While there is little drama remaining as to the outcome, the primaries in Georgia will provide both candidates with a gut check ahead of the anticipated November clash. Biden won the state by less than 12,000 votes in 2020, the first Democratic presidential candidate to win Georgia since Bill Clinton in '92. Trump's defeat touched off a series of alleged efforts by him and his allies to subvert the election results. Those efforts are now wrapped up in a wide-range conspiracy indictment set to be tried in Fulton County, home to Atlanta. Sorry, bud, but I gotta go. It's okay, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. Both candidates spent parts of their weekend in the Peach State, where they led competing rallies about 60 miles apart. On Saturday, my lifetime has taught me to embrace the future of freedom and democracy, Biden said at the rally in Atlanta, but we all know Donald Trump sees a different America. An American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution. That's not me, and that's not you. Trump, in his visit to Rome, Georgia, slammed Biden over what he described as an angry, dark, hate-filled rant of a State of the Union speech, which the president gave on Thursday. Trump also kept up his criticism over Democrats' handling of the southern border and the economy. Biden has been on a State of the Union tour on swing states, first going to Pennsylvania on Friday before Georgia, then New Hampshire on Monday. Trump is bound for Dayton, Ohio this weekend, where he will host a rally for businessman Bernie Moreno, his endorsed candidate in the GOP primary to take on Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown. The Ohio election is among several seen as critical to Democratic hopes of holding the Senate. I swear to God, almost everyone seems to run just so that they can get a shot at shaking the giant piggy bank into their pockets and then leave government. True. 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 So, to the surprise of nobody, it's pretty much a done deal. Biden and Trump will be the nominees. It is basically, for all intents and purposes going forward, it is basically general election season going. It is now the middle of March. And so far, the polls have not shifted significantly. We'll see how things look in about maybe another month or two, and go from there. All right, folks. It is just over 7 o'clock. I got to get going. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you guys so much. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. Thank you, Heat, for the subscription. Thank you all for the follows, biddies, everything like that. It really does help the channel. If you guys want to support the channel, hit the follow button. It really does help us out. If you're on the YouTube, like the stream, subscribe, do that awesome stuff. Share. Spread the word right here, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow, as always, folks. Also, thank you. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hassler, for modding. I appreciate it. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all, as always. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.